Hi, this is Mrs. Swigart, and today we're going to talk about proportions and understanding them, and what's the difference in a proportion and a ratio, and things like that. So, a ratio is the comparison of two numbers by division. So, any fraction would make a ratio. A classroom of boys to girls is a ratio. You're comparing the number of boys and the number of girls. It can be written in three different ways. It can be written as a fraction, or it can be written with a semicolon between, or it can be written with the word to in between. So there's three ways to write a ratio. Now generally, when you have a ratio, you do reduce it to lowest terms. In this case, we reduced it by 4, and our ratio becomes 4 boys for every 3 girls. Okay? Now, a ratio is where you can compare two unlike things, like apples and oranges. They're not the same. You can compare them. And that's how we can, by the use of ratios. Now, Joe earned $40 in 5 hours. So the ratio would be $40 over 5 hours, and we would reduce that, since 5 will go into both of them, to $8 per hour. Now, when you have a 1 on the bottom, when the denominator is 1, it's called a unit rate. And we're going to be doing lessons about unit rates later. There'll actually be some questions on your EOI and the OCCT, for those of you taking that, about unit rates. Now, let's look at a classroom. In a ratio, you could do boys to girls, or you could do boys to the whole group of students. So there's boys to girls, girls to boys, and then you always find a total. Okay, it's part to part or part to whole. Now, you can also, if a ratio is a part to whole, you can divide it and find a decimal or a percent. So if we have 31 students and 16 of them are boys, we can take 31 divided by 16, we'd have 0.15% are boys of our students. Okay? Now, to determine whether a pair of ratios are equivalent, first off, you take and you cross multiply. So we're going to say 8 times 6 is 48, and then 2 times 48 is 48. If the bottoms are equal, then the ratios are equivalent. So let's try that again. 2 times 12 and 5 times 13. Are they equal? No. You can tell that because 80 does not equal 24. So you cross multiply. That is something you've done before. Now, proportions is a statement that says two ratios are equal. So one of the previous statements was a proportion, the other one was not. Okay, let's say we have an election and Damien got 3 votes for each 2 votes that Shannon got. And Damien got 72 votes. Well, when you're setting them up, you have to keep the same items across from each other. So Damien had 3, and he also had 72, where Shannon had 2, and we don't know what her actual votes are. Now, in order to solve this, we would cross multiply. And so 3 times n would be 3n, and then 2 times 72 is 144. And we would divide, we want n by itself, so we divide 144 by 3. And so Shannon got 48 votes. 2 tires cost $75. So we have 2 over 75, so we've got tires over cost. How much will the cost for 4 tires? So the number of tires, the 4 goes on top, a variable goes on bottom. You cross multiply, you get 2n, and then 75 times 4 is 300. We want n by itself, so we're going to divide by 2. So the cost for 4 tires is $150. Okay, same thing here. even if you don't have what each one is. Okay, cross multiply, we get 2n, 6 times 8 is 48, we're going to divide by 2 and get 24. Once again, 3 cans of soup cost $5. How much does 12 cans? So 3 over 5, it says 12 cans, so that would be on top instead of bottom, and then we'd cross multiply. So 3n, and then 5 times 12. We divide by 3, and our answer would be 20. Okay, doesn't look too hard. I think that this one's an easy lesson. We'll see you tomorrow.